Welcome back to Titans of Food Service. This is season 3, and on the season, I'm doing my Across American 50 Weeks tour, where I interview one Titan of Food Service from every single state in the country. And on this episode, I'm going to be traveling to the beautiful islands of Hawaii. And to welcome the state of Hawaii, I'm going to be joined by Elisia Flores, who's the CEO of L&L Hawaiian Barbecue. Now, L&L Hawaiian Barbecue has grown into a global brand with over 200 restaurants worldwide, making it the most successful restaurant franchise to expand outside of Hawaii. You'll see in our conversation between Elisia and me, she's managing a very, very large business, and she gives some great nuggets and tidbits on how she does that and what her day-to-day life really looks like, and some of the things that she learned throughout the pandemic. But L&L has been recognized as one of America's top global franchises by Entrepreneur Magazine. It's been named a top 400 restaurant chain by Restaurant Institution Magazine and honored as one of the top 50 regional powerhouse chains by Nation's Restaurant News. Elisia has continued to grow L&L's legacy while maintaining the authentic flavors that bring a true taste of Hawaii to the world. Before I dive into the conversation with Elisia, let's take a little look at Hawaii's unique food service scene. I like to do this every episode, give like a quick one or two quick tidbit about the state. So Hawaii, it's a melting pot of cultures, and its cuisine reflects its influences from Polynesian to Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Portuguese traditions, among others. The iconic dish plate lunch featuring rice, macaroni salad, and a protein like teriyaki chicken or kalua pork is a beloved staple across the islands. And we touched a little bit on that in the conversation. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Elisia. All right, Elisia, welcome to the Titans of Food Service podcast. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and meet me.
Aloha. Appreciate you having me here today.
Yeah. So what island do you live on?
So I'm on Oahu, in Honolulu, probably the most well-known town in Hawaii.
Yep. My day job is actually I'm a food service broker. So I represent different products and sell them into food service operators and distributors. And we actually have an office in Honolulu.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we should meet up in town sometime.
Yeah. So I'm based here in Orange County, California. So we have offices in couple in California, one in Nevada, and then one in Hawaii. And we've got a general manager out there and another sales rep as well. So we've been in Hawaii now for over a year, and it's a beautiful place and a great market too. And I've learned so much about the islands, at least the food part of it.
Yes, we are always a very enviable account for our vendors to try to win because they like that they have to come out here to meet with us.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how did you get into the food business?
So that's the easy one. I was born into it. So I'm the CEO of L&L Hawaiian Barbecue, and it was actually founded by my father, Eddie Flores, and his business partner, Johnson Cam. And it was founded almost, a little over 45 years ago. And so it existed before I did. L&L was a part of my life, my whole life. Didn't always expect to be in the business, but also maybe kind of always expected to be in the business.
Yeah, I feel that. My business, I work with my dad. He had been a food broker his whole career, so my whole life.
Yes.
And coming out of college, I was like, I want to be in finance. I want to
Yes.
help people with their
Same.
money problems. And never thought I'd be in the food business, but here I am. And
Yeah,
it's a great career.
it is. And then so my background is finance as well, corporate finance. And it never, once I was away, I never wanted my dad to be my boss my entire life. So the intention for our family was that I would take a job elsewhere. And I actually really enjoyed my other job and thought about not coming home, not being back in the business for a long time. But eventually I made the decision to come back into L&L, and it's been fantastic. It's the best industry to be in, I think.
Absolutely. Have you always lived on the islands, or did you ever
No,
leave the
so I
islands?
left I was born and raised here, left for college. I went to college in Southern California. Um, and then after my undergraduate, I worked for General Electric. At the time, they owned so many more business units. So I had the chance to work around the United States and in a couple other countries. So I really got to uh, get, off the island and explore a lot. And now that I'm back home, again, nothing better than being in Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Where did you work abroad?
Yeah, so I worked. I was a corporate auditor for a couple years, and one of my assignments was at a bank, an Italian bank. So I worked in Milan,
Okay.
and got to travel to different places. I worked in Canada, if we count that as international. So it was kept fantastic. You know, I was living kind of this very exciting life of a corporate life in different and fun business units, banks at the time. GE owned NBC Universal. Very different from the restaurant industry. Um, but I have to say, I think the restaurant industry has its own things about it that make it so unique and exciting, even compared to things like entertainment or banking.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I've I lived in Florence only for 4 months. I did study abroad
Okay.
when I was in school. I went to Chapman University, which is I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a small little
Yes.
school in Orange County, and
Yeah.
had the opportunity to go out there.
When I lived in Milan, I was my apartment was on top of a bakery, and on my way to work was a gelato store. So I gained so many pounds in my time living there because I had a croissant every morning and a gelato every night. It was a fantastic life.
I love that. That's so cool. So when you get into the family business, when you get into L&L Hawaiian Barbecue, it looks like you start in finance as the chief financial officer. Is that correct?
That's right. So I came in as a CFO, again, my background being finance, and we didn't really have any financial leadership in the company at the time. And then after 5 years, so in 2019, I became the CEO and have held that role since then.
Nice. Is your dad still involved in the business?
He's still involved. So as a founder, as an entrepreneur, I don't know if your dad's the same. You know, he's going to work till the day he dies. So he's our chairman now.
Okay.
Comes into the office every day. He's sitting in the office across from me right now, and he loves it. And I'm grateful for the privilege of being able to work with him and learn from him.
You know what's so interesting about family-owned businesses or working with family is I'm sure you've probably told others like, yeah, I work with my dad, and they're like, oh, how is that? I feel like when it comes to family businesses, it's like you have two extremes. It works really well or it doesn't work at all. And for the dynamic with my dad and me, what has helped us is he has far more experience than I do being in this industry for so long, but he takes my advice and he lets me take risk and he lets me make decisions and do things like that. And so I feel like, hey, this actually feels 50-50 here. Like it's an actual partnership and it really works for us.
Yeah, I agree with your analysis. Family business is a very, very tricky thing. I think when it works, there are so many synergies that make it even more special than just a normal sort of organization. But it has its own challenges as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go back to the very beginning. How did LNL even come to be?
Right. So, again, founded by my father, Eddie Flores, and his business partner, Johnson Cam. Both were immigrants to the United States. Had very different paths. My dad actually bought L&L, started as a dairy by Korean immigrants to Hawaii, and they eventually created L&L Drive-In, which is in Hawaii, we have um, maybe, the state food of Hawaii, we like to say is the plate lunch, which is what L&L serves, which is 2 scoops of rice, macaroni salad, and your entree, protein entree. So L&L Drive-In was a one location restaurant on Lily Haas Street here in Honolulu. Um, my dad is an immigrant, moved here with his parents. Both of his parents had just a sixth grade education, and when they came to the United States, English was not their first language. They worked very hard, though. My grandmother was working at a restaurant, and my dad at the time was working in real estate, and thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if his mom, could have her own restaurant? So she bought her the first L&L Drive-In, and she worked there. And after a couple of months, I think she realized, my gosh, her dream is not to own a restaurant. It is so difficult to run. Being part of the restaurant community is really fantastic, but running a restaurant is very, very difficult. And that's when they brought in, I call him Uncle Johnson, but Johnson Cam. So that was the beginning of L&L. It started as a one location kind of um, American dream sort of situation. And it just grew and grew and grew. Nobody expected it to get as big as it did. We started franchising. And then we eventually, hopped the ocean and started franchising on the mainland. And it's been wonderful. And we have 230 locations now. But again, it just started as the one store with no expectations further than that.
I mean, what an incredible story. When your family immigrated here to the United States, did they go to Hawaii first, or did they start
Yes.
here on the mainland?
Yes, they landed in Hawaii, and part of the reason, so we're still headquartered and based here, and as long as I'm in charge, that's the intention, to stay in Hawaii. We wouldn't have Our company is rooted here. The food that we serve is based out of Hawaii, and there's no way our company, our family, would have had the success it did were it not for the Hawaii community that embraced us when my family moved here.
Yeah. And of the 230 locations you have, how many are in Hawaii?
Sure. 67 are on the Hawaii Islands, and we're on the four main islands. And the remainder are in 14 other states across the country.
Were you part of the company when it started to get into the franchise model?
I was not, I can't remember if I was still in high school or if I was in college. But for a large chunk of time, I briefly worked as a cashier in L&L. Other than that, until I came back in the business, it was kind of just around, but I wasn't involved. So I don't remember when we started franchising, but I think it was fairly early, maybe within 10 years of the founding.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. When the company did jump and come here to the mainland, what is that like? Is the business different here on the mainland versus in Hawaii?
Absolutely. So, uh, I- uh, our food we call the comfort food of Hawaii, and I think people can always understand comfort food wherever you're from. But our food is very different than what you normally would see on the mainland. We're not pizza, we're not subs, we're not burgers, we're not Mexican, and so in Hawaii, we can open up a store. We don't have to explain to anybody what chicken katsu is, what barbecue mix is, what a spam musubi is. But when we opened our first stores on the mainland, we had the new challenge of educating customers what a plate lunch is, what Hawaiian barbecue is. Um, and our first stores were in California. And the great thing about California is that we have a lot of people who have visited Hawaii are used to a variety of Asian food. So it wasn't challenging. It wasn't, it was challenging but not insurmountable. We have since opened in in different places such as Texas, Atlanta, Florida, and in those places where as you get further away from Hawaii, people are less familiar with Hawaii and Hawaiian food. Even to this day, we have the challenge of educating folks what a plate lunch is. The great thing is once people try it, they love it, but it's just getting them to take the first bite.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And what about for you? What does your day to day look like as the CEO of the company?
Yeah, so it's always exciting. So right now, we're in September. Our fourth quarter is going to be crazy. For whatever reason, all of our store openings pushed into the fourth quarter. So for the remainder of the year, we're looking to open to 7 to 12 stores. So for example, right now we have franchisees in for training in Hawaii.
Okay.
We're working on the pipeline for the remainder of the stores. I'm working on our 2025 strategy, as well as thinking through kind of later on today I have a meeting with our PR firm. So it's always exciting. We're in a growth mode, so that makes it even more exciting. But certainly it's busy days.
If we drill down on that a little bit more, when you're opening up 7 to 12 new locations, you're building out your 2025 strategy plan. What are you're looking for growth? It seems like, what are you
Yes.
looking for when you're looking to add more units? Is it certain operators you're looking for, or is it locations? What goes into that?
Yeah, I think it's certainly both. We want growth, but we don't want growth just for the sake of growth.
Hmm.
One of the core values of L&L has always been around the franchisee, and if our franchisees are successful, then the corporation and the whole brand will be successful. So I don't want to bring on franchisees who are not a right fit, and by right fit, it could be they don't have um, they don't have enough capital to open their store without pulling out their entire bank account, or they don't have the right passion for coming into the industry. Food service is so challenging. Running a restaurant maybe is the most challenging that it's ever been right now. And so, I don't want people leaving their careers, pulling out their 401ks, and this not working out for them. And so part of that is location as well. People want to open up in certain places, and we have a pretty good feel of locations that will be successful, and try to steer people towards that. So the whole key is, we want growth, but we want successful franchisees. And so making sure we have the right fit with the franchisee and the best location for them to be successful.
One thing that's interesting about food service is let's just take the restaurant part of it, right? There's so many operators out there, so many entrepreneurs, there's so many people in it, and which is great. But I would imagine there's also, especially on your side, when it comes to the franchise model, is vetting out people. Can they
Yes.
run their own business under your umbrella? Can they uh, manage a P&L and all of these different things and manage people? Managing people is not easy.
It's the most
So for
challenging part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, you see AI coming everywhere. It makes it so much easier. um, but yeah, managing people is it's not easy. So I would imagine on your side, trying to go through and determine, is this person, or maybe, I'm sure maybe there's groups as well that you work with that buy up maybe multiple locations. Are they well equipped to be able to handle the expectations and what it takes to run a restaurant?
That's right. And, I think entrepreneurs are amazing folks, and that we get to work with entrepreneurs every day. Our franchisees are entrepreneurs, right? And they have so much energy and ideas and passion for the business, and that's really fun to be around. But at the same time, when they join a franchise organization, we need to make sure we're providing the guardrails and the systems and the resources for them to be successful. So it is a unique kind of a challenge finding the right person who's entrepreneurial but also wants to plug into a system.
Why would a franchise potential franchisee choose L&L over other franchises maybe out there that they could they could join?
Yeah, I'll give you maybe the three main reasons why I think franchisees choose us.
Yeah.
The number one reason, this is not everyone, but this is a lot of, at least 50% of our prospects, I say, is that they have this deep love for Hawaii. So we either have, people who were born and raised in Hawaii and are now living in another state, or have spent time in Hawaii. They always come here for vacations, or they have family here, and now they're living somewhere else, and they so miss Hawaii. They miss the community, the feel, whatever it is that's special to them about Hawaii, they miss that. And they
Mhm.
want to bring that to the place they are. And L&L is a way that they can do that. That is one reason why, many franchisees are attracted to us. A second reason is that we have really, really great fee structure. So our franchise fees range from, total royalty and advertising from 4 to 6% total, which is very low when you consider kind of the landscape of franchise organizations. Again, our key focus is the success of the franchisees. So the more successful they are, the more successful I will be, but I don't need to raise my franchisees for corporation to be successful. And, I think that's attractive from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
The last reason is that we give our franchisees um, flexibility to really be entrepreneurs. Like I said, we put in guardrails, but our guardrails are pretty wide. And I think people want to own their own business. And when they own their own business, they want to have some amount of autonomy to make decisions, to decide how they want to build the community in their area, to decide maybe they have a great recipe. They themselves or one of the chefs they have a great recipe they want to feature. At LNL, you can do that. We have the key things that you have to participate and follow, but we also give you your flexibility to be your own, to be a business owner.
Yeah.
I think that's unique to LNL as a franchise organization, and I think it's something that our franchisees truly enjoy.
Going back to point two around the financial aspect of it, where you're essentially all in your fees are 4 to 6%. When you look at the other competitors, let's say, is that where does that stack up in terms of the overall going rate within the industry?
My guess is that the average total for the industry is at around 8 to 10%, and it can and so I'm so confident that we're in the bottom 10% kind of of the bell curve of where the fees would be. We are very low. We have discussions all the time about should we raise it, and we always decide against it, because again it's key to our founding and to our values um, to have a model that's successful for franchisees. And
Yeah.
in the last couple of years, everyone in food service is I don't need to say this, but our margins have been chipped and chipped away. And again, I don't want the franchise fee to be a reason why the business can't survive.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. Food service it's a tricky one, and you got your ups and downs, and you just got to kind of ride through those things, especially during the pandemic. How was
Yes.
that for you? Having, I would imagine at that point you may not have had 230 locations, but you had to have over 100 at that point. How was that navigating through the pandemic?
So the pandemic is very sharp in my mind because I became CEO in July of 2019. And so pandemic hit in less than a year later. And honestly, one of the first selfishly thoughts in my mind was, oh my gosh, less than a year as CEO, and I'm going to completely ruin the company. It's all downhill. I would say for us at corporate and for our restaurants, the first couple months of the pandemic were very challenging. As a business that was considered an essential service, restaurants remained open, but the rules about how you could operate your restaurant changed daily, and you often wouldn't know what they are. For example, in Hawaii, employees had to have vaccination cards. Okay. Very briefly, you had to check customers to make sure they were vaccinated to come in. Okay. You had to put the stickers and make sure people were distanced. Okay. So, these rules came out and you try to follow them, but at the same time, you weren't 100% sure what the rules were today. And were you going to get shut down if you didn't follow the rule that just got announced yesterday and you weren't very sure about? So plus, everything in how you operate changed, and sales in the start were slow, and your employees were not there. Anyways, the first couple months were challenging. Um, I will say though, 2020, 2021 ended up being really wonderful years for L&L. I don't know if it was because we're a takeout restaurant. And so with many other restaurants having to close during those periods, our volume picked up. Um, if our stores were not already on third party delivery, they entered third party delivery, and third party delivery, I have a lot of views on it, but it for sure pushed up revenues. And even as a franchise organization, 2020, 2021, 2022, we ended up opening more locations than we expected. My
Wow.
feeling is a lot of people during this time, because it was a scary time, because their jobs were maybe at risk, they decided, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to own my own business. This is the time to do it. So after the first couple of months of being very scary, it just, things kind of went into overdrive for L&L, and it turned out to be a good time for us.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how that works? I remember I got married in 2021 and I went to Hawaii for my honeymoon. And I remember there was different, I live in California. We were pretty strict on the rules as well. But yeah, I remember Hawaii. I can't remember exactly what we had to do, but there was definitely different things. And it was kind of change. If you remember back, it's like changing every week
Yes.
with the amount of infection and whatnot. So it's just kind of navigating that, which was not easy.
Yes, yes. I'm glad we're through it. But it was, even from a leadership perspective, it was, we came out of it stronger.
What do you think you learned about yourself in that time?
Yeah, I think during the time, the power of communication became, it was already clear to me, but it became even more clear. I'm convinced now, every almost every challenge that we face in a business and personal, anything is, and in a family business, even more so, communication is at the core, and being able to communicate with people. Again, the rules during COVID, being able to understand the rule and disseminate that out to our franchisees as quickly as possible. When PPP came out, being able to understand that and disseminate it out to franchisees as quickly as possible.
Mm.
During COVID, people were scared. They didn't know what was going on. So being able to take people's phone calls and talk to them, and just being either an ear if they needed or advice if they needed. The power of communication was so important. And that was reaffirmed during COVID.
Yeah, I'm sure. What about in present day? Going with communication. How do you get communication out to all of the franchisees over 230 locations across all of the employees? That's quite a bit.
It is, and it's challenging. It's honestly, one of the things that we're working on here in LNL is how do we improve franchisee engagement. Of course, we have, email communication, our email newsletters. But honestly, any franchisee that wants my cell phone number can have it. I can't say I appreciate them calling me all the time, but I appreciate that I can give it to them and they can call me if they have any issues. And I will take any franchisee's call if they want to talk to me as a CEO of the company, if it's a matter that urgent to them. I will take the call because this is, when you come into L&L, you're not just franchisee number, 157. You're the Flores family, um, and you're part of the L&L family now. And again, my whole job is making our franchisees successful. And if they have a concern that they want to share with me that I can try to help take care of, I want them to have that access.
Amazing, amazing. People they stay for those types of things. They like I could speak for my own experience of having a company culture where people like to be and they feel respected and they feel heard. Especially having your cell phone. I mean, you're a very busy person. I would imagine managing. I would seem probably a very large P&L if you put everything together. So I think that's really cool and it means a lot to people that work within your organization. What about looking into the future? What is something that you want to achieve that you've not yet achieved?
So that's a great question, and one of the things that I put, and it's a pretty lofty goal, but I feel like the more I say it, the more I have to make it happen. But I want L&L to get to 500 stores. So we set a 10-year goal a couple years ago. So we've got until 2032 to do this. This is more than doubling our footprint. Um, and we've always grown, but we've never grown at the rate that we would have to get to 500 locations. So that's our big company goal. And quite frankly, the reason 500 is a huge number, it's a big number for us, but maybe it's a big enough number as well for L&L. We again, I love that I know all the franchisees, that I can give everyone my cell phone number and that they can feel really part of a family. And I think 500, if we can do it, it'll be a great time to pause and celebrate and make sure collectively what we want to do next.
Amazing. Well, Alicia, I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to come on here and sharing your story. And here on the mainland is 12:30. It's almost time for lunch. Maybe L&L might be good, a great choice.
I hope you do get a plate lunch and then get a little kanak attack or a nap to take afterwards. So thank you so much for having me. I love being part of the food service. I'm going to retire from it, and it's such a joy. So thank you for letting me share a bit about our story.
Of course, I appreciate it.